Hey guys, welcome back to GuitarAnimal.com. I'm Trent, and today we're going to start the first in our series of chord theory videos. Our members can check out the entire series at GuitarAnimal.com. But for you guys that are just checking it out, this is the first one in the series. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to us because we want to have you here. Alright, so this is building on our major scales, which if you haven't seen that yet, we do have a free version of major scale theory as well as a complete series over at GuitarAnimal.com. So it is coming from the point that you understand our major scale. That's what we're starting with at the top here. Our major scale, which is seven different notes resolving on an eighth tone, the same as the first. And this would be whole step, half step, whole step, half step. If that sounds strange to you, make sure you stop this video here and go look at the how to make major scales video first, because you will need that information. So based on our major scale, we're going to learn how to build chords using that scale. First thing we're going to come across is something called a chord spelling. And what a chord spelling is that is a recipe of how to go to a major scale, pull down the things you need to build a particular type of chord. The first chord spelling we're concerned with is our major chord spelling. And what that is 1, 3, 5. And what that says is you take the first note, the third note, and the fifth note from a major scale, put those three notes together, and you're playing a major chord. All right? So let's plug in some notes here and take a look at that. Now let's look at G major scale. It would be G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, and G. Again, if the sharp's throwing you there, like, well, why did he put a sharp on the seventh element? Go and look at that major chord or major scale video. You'll need to have that information. All right, so this is our G major scale. And 1, 3, and 5, the chord spelling is telling us to take the one note, which is a G, and take the 3 note, which is the B, and the 5 note, which is a D, and put those 3 notes together. I can make a D here. And that will form a G major chord. All right, so when we're looking at these 3 notes, you can see that they have different spacings between them. We're going to talk about that in just a second because we really want to translate this major chord spelling into a major chord formula that is able to be used independent of the scale. But when you're first learning it, you look at the scale. So first note of the scale, third note of the scale, fifth note of the scale come together to make a G major chord. You can look at these spacings here. From the 1 note to the 3 note is 2 whole steps. It would be G to A is 1, A to B is 2. So G to B is 2 whole steps. From the B note to the D note is 1.5 whole steps. See, B to C is a half step, and C to D is a whole step, so 1.5 whole steps. And of course, from the G note to the D note would be 3.5 whole steps. 2 plus 1.5 would be 3.5 whole steps from the G to the D. Now at this point, measuring everything in whole steps and half steps is going to be a little bit cumbersome to deal with. So we're going to translate those into musical intervals. All right? We're going to say that 2 whole steps is equal to a major third interval. So if you play a G note and you play a B note, that is a distance of a major third. You will want to just memorize that. 2 whole steps is a major third. All right. From the B to the D is 1.5 whole steps. We refer to a 1.5 whole step distance as a minor third. All right. Now the way that I write major third is the M larger than the 3 is read major third. If the M is smaller than the 3, it's a minor third. I'm not sure everyone does that. I do it. I find it a really easy way to abbreviate this. That's what I'll be doing in my video series. If the M is larger than the 3, it's a major third. If it's smaller than the 3, it's a minor third distance. The 3.5 whole steps distance, which we had from the G to the D, is known as a perfect fifth, and we usually just refer to that as a fifth. All right, so things to memorize. 2 whole steps is a major third, 1.5 whole steps is a minor third, 3.5 whole steps is a perfect fifth. If you haven't already noted, you'll probably need a pen and a notebook to take some notes to this video. If you go to GuitarAnimal.com, we do have a looping function available over there as well as a slowdown feature. I don't know how I would sound talking very slowly, but you could use the looping feature and go over this as many times as you need to grasp these concepts. I'll go over them all at the end of the video. All right, so what we did with this, we have our major chord spelling, the 1, the 3, and the 5, which of course is dependent on the scale. You have to have the scale in front of you, or you have to know the notes of the scale to be able to use this. I'm going to translate that into a major chord formula. The formula is able to be used independent of the scale. So we said that from our first note 1 to our second note 3 was a distance of 2 whole steps or a major third. So down here in my formula, my first note to my second note are spaced a major third apart. My middle note to my ending note are 1.5 whole steps apart or a minor third apart. So the spacing of major third between the first 2 notes and minor third between the middle and the ending notes will also give us a major chord and be used independent of the scale. Now, when we are using this formula to build a chord, we will also be skipping a note name in these larger intervals. Before, when we were choosing the note names for our major scales, we did not skip any note names. We just went through the alphabet, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, or if you start with A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and so forth. When you're making chords, we will be skipping note names on these larger intervals. So for example, if I wanted to make an A major chord, I would start with an A, I'd put A here, no B, some kind of a C, no D, some kind of an E. So let me see if I can put those in for us. I didn't give myself a lot of space here, but let's see what we've got. So we have A, no B, we skipped it, some kind of a C, no D, and then some kind of an E. The reason I say the some kind of is we haven't checked our distances yet, we just chose our note names. So now that we have our note names, A, C, E, I need to go back and check my distances to see if this is truly the notes that make up the A major chord. The way that I would do that, how far is it from A to C? Well, A to B is 1 whole step, and B to C is a half. So A to C is 1.5 whole steps. Here I'm calling for a major third, which is 2 whole steps. So this C would have to become a C sharp. C sharp makes it 2 whole steps above the A. Again, if you have to listen to that a couple times, use the looper function, bring it back. And again, it does really consider that you already know how to make major scales. So this might get over your head very quickly. Go back and look at those videos on how to make major scales first. All right, so A to C sharp is 2 whole steps, a major third. The second section of my chord needs to be a minor third apart. So I'm asking, how far is it from C sharp to E? Well, C sharp to D sharp is 1 whole step, and D sharp to E is a half step. So that's 1.5 steps total, and that's really what I'm looking for here. Minor third is 1.5 steps. So the A, the C sharp, and the E will come together to form an A major chord. Now we can check our work by going back to our major scales. If you look at the A major scale, the number 1 note in the scale will be an A, the 3 note in the A major scale will be C sharp, and the 5 note will be an E, so you can check your work. Again, the purpose in having a major chord formula is while I have a guitar in my hand, I can create chords simply based on the formula as opposed to having to stop and consider the scale. So this is our primer on how to get into chord spellings and major chord formulas or chord theory. Be sure to check us out at guitaranimal.com where you can loop this as many times as you need to grasp these concepts. Key points. Chords come from major scales. All chords are based on major scales. Chord spellings are the numbers involved or the notes involved in making a particular chord. They're based on the major scales, and they're recipes of what notes to pull from a major scale, what positions to pull down the notes from to create particular chords. We'll have many, many different chord spellings. This is a major chord spelling, which is the 1, the 3, and the 5 note coming together to form a major chord. Based on the 1, 3, and 5, we had 2 whole steps between the 1 and the 3. 2 whole steps we defined as a major third. We had 1.5 whole steps between the 3 and the 5. We defined that as a minor third. We said then we have 3.5 whole steps from the 1 to the 5, which we determined was a perfect fifth or just a fifth. These are defined over here. 2 whole steps is a major third, 1.5 whole steps is a minor third, 3.5 whole steps is a perfect fifth. At the bottom of the page, major chord formula. From the first note to the middle note in our chord is a major third, it's 2 whole steps. From the middle note to the ending note in our chord is a minor third or 1.5 whole steps. That's the information you really need to get from this lesson. I know there's a lot there. Feel free to go over it several times. Usually takes most of my students that I have in my lessons 2 or 3 weeks to grasp this, so take your time to get it down. And Guitar Animal members can be looking forward to more chord theory lessons in the weeks to come.